site of the orbital Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower. Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Welcome back to Un-Shuck Yourself, powered by the Corpus Christi Originals Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ben DeLeon. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had someone completely misunderstand your intentions? You knew what you meant, you knew why you did it, but somehow they came away with an entirely different story. So you explain yourself, and then you do it again, and then you do it again, and then you give them more context. You try to find different words. You explain what happened before the thing they misunderstood. You explain what you were thinking. You explain what you weren't thinking. And before you know it, you're spending an hour trying to convince someone that you're not the person they've decided you are. I've been there. And here's the frustrating part, because sometimes they still don't believe you. That's when you have to learn something incredibly difficult. You can't control the story that people tell about you. You can control what you do. You can control how you treat people. You can control your integrity. But you cannot control someone else's interpretation of you. And if you try to spend your whole life explaining yourself, you're going to spend a whole lot of energy defending yourself to people who may have already decided what they want to believe. See, think about the people you have in your life. Your spouse has a version of you. Your children have a version of you. Your friends, your coworkers, they each have a different version of you. Your boss has a different version of you. Even people who barely know you have a version of you in their heads. And here's the interesting thing. None of those versions are completely you. They're all seeing you through their own experiences, their expectations, their insecurities, their history, their relationship with you. Two people can experience the exact same interaction with you and walk away with completely different impressions. One person thinks you're confident, the other thinks you're arrogant. One thinks you're independent, the other thinks you're difficult. One thinks you're quiet, the other thinks you're stuck up. So which one is right? When away, maybe all of them. Maybe none of them, because they're not actually seeing all of you. They're seeing the version of you that exists through their particular lens. And that's something we have to learn to accept. You are not responsible for managing every version of yourself that exists in someone else's head. See, this is the part no one really wants to hear. Sometimes you're going to be the bad guy in somebody's story, even when you don't think you did anything wrong. You can leave a relationship respectfully, and someone can still call you selfish. You can establish a boundary, and someone can call you difficult. You can say no, and someone can call you uncaring. You can make a decision that's right for your life, and someone can decide you've changed. You can succeed, someone can call you arrogant. You can fail, and someone can decide you're incompetent. You cannot win this game, because the game is not yours to control. And sometimes people need you to be the villain because it makes their own story easier to understand. If you're the bad guy, then they don't have to examine their own behavior. If you're the selfish one, then they don't have to question what they asked of you. If you're the difficult one, then they don't have to consider whether they were asking too much. Now, I'm not saying that's always what's happening. Sometimes criticism is deserved. Sometimes people have legitimate reasons to be upset with us, and that's where this gets important. We can't use people misunderstand me as an excuse to avoid accountability. That's not what this episode is about. Sometimes somebody tells you something about yourself, and it hurts because there's some truth in it. That's when you have a choice. You can get defensive. You can explain it away. You can say, oh, that's just how they see me. Or you can stop and ask, is there something I need to learn? Maybe you were too harsh. Maybe you really were being selfish. Maybe you handled the situation badly. Maybe you owe somebody an apology. And if you do, own it. Apologize. Make the change. Grow. But here's where we need to learn to draw the line. Once you've taken responsibility, you don't have to spend the rest of your life trying to convince someone that you've changed. Your behavior can speak for you. You don't have to keep standing in front of the jury asking for another verdict. Sometimes the most honest thing you can say is, I was wrong, I'm sorry, I'm working on it. And then actually work on it. So here's something I've noticed. We sometimes put ourselves on trial in our own minds. Someone says something about us and suddenly we're building a legal defense. Well, I only did that because, but they don't understand. What actually happened was, well, if they knew the whole story, and maybe they don't, maybe your explanation is completely valid, but do you really need every person to understand you? Do you need everyone to agree with your choices? Do you need everyone to think you're a good person? At some point, you have to decide that your life isn't a courtroom. You don't have to defend every decision. You don't have to explain every boundary. And you don't have to prove every intention. And you certainly don't have to convince everyone that you're a good person. Your consistent behavior over time says far more about you than your explanations ever will. Now, I want to make an important distinction. Your reputation does matter. How you treat people matters. Your word matters. Your actions matter. If you develop a reputation for being dishonest, unreliable, cruel, or difficult to work with, you shouldn't simply shrug your shoulders and say, well, people can think whatever they want. That's not accountability. But you should care about the person you're presenting to the world. But there's a difference between protecting your reputation and obsessing over your reputation. One is responsibility, the other is exhaustion. You can do everything right and still have someone dislike you. You can be honest and still be misunderstood. You can be kind and still be rejected. You can be a good employee and still not get promoted. You can be a good friend and still lose a friendship. That's life. And none of those things automatically mean you did something wrong. Sometimes people simply aren't meant to agree with you. Sometimes they're not meant to stay. Sometimes they don't like the boundaries you've created because the old version of you was more convenient for them. That's okay. Here's one of my favorite ways to think about this. You don't have to attend the trial being held against you in someone else's head. I mean, think about that. Someone can be sitting somewhere right now having an entire argument with a version of you who isn't even there. They're explaining what you did, why you did it, what your intentions must have been, what kind of person you supposedly are, and you're not even in the room. You can't defend yourself. You can't clarify. You can't change their mind. So what are you going to do? Spend your life chasing every accusation? That's just exhausting. Sometimes you have to let people have their opinion. Let them tell their story. Let them misunderstand. Let them be wrong about you. Not because you don't care, but because you understand that your energy has a better place to go. So here's the question I want you to start asking instead. Instead of, what do they think about me? Ask, do I respect the person I'm becoming? See, that's a much better question. Do you keep your word? Do you admit when you're wrong? Do you treat people with respect? Do you stand up for yourself? Do you apologize when you need to? Do you keep learning? Do you try to leave people better than you found them? Are you becoming someone you're proud to see in the mirror? Because those are the things you can control. You control your choices, your behavior, your effort, your integrity, your response. You don't control the audience. And maybe that's the freedom we've been looking for all along. Not the freedom to make everyone like us, but the freedom to stop needing them to. So here's your challenge this week. Pay attention to every time you feel the urge to explain yourself. Before you do, stop and ask, am I correcting misinformation that actually matters? Or am I trying to make someone like me? There's a difference. If you genuinely hurt someone, address it. If you've been misunderstood and clarification will actually improve the situation, clarify it. But if you already explained yourself and the other person simply doesn't want to accept your explanation, you may need to just let it go. You don't have to keep knocking on a door that someone has decided to keep closed. Let your actions speak. Let time speak. Let consistency speak. And most importantly, let yourself move forward. I'll leave you with this. You can spend your entire life correcting people's opinions of you, or you can spend that time becoming someone you respect. You can't control every story people tell about you, every interpretation, every opinion, and you certainly can't control whether someone chooses to understand you. But you can control who you are when no one is watching, how you treat people, whether or not you keep your word, whether you take responsibility when you're wrong, and you can control whether you keep becoming a better version of yourself. So if someone misunderstands you, don't immediately panic. If someone doesn't like you, don't automatically assume you're doing something wrong. If someone tells a story about you that isn't true, ask yourself whether correcting it actually matters. And if it doesn't, keep living, keep growing, keep becoming, because eventually you'll realize something. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to know who you are. So keep questioning the stories, keep choosing integrity, keep becoming someone you respect, and I'll see you next time on Un-Shuck Yourself.